You turn on the TV. The news anchor is once again discussing gun violence in the United States. The year isn't even a quarter over, and already more than 8,400 Americans have died due to firearms, about 117 deaths every single day. From the outside, it can seem like every headline from America is about politics, war, or shootings. Some critics even describe the country as a giant crime scene stretching nearly 2,700 miles across. But is the entire nation truly a war zone? Or is the violence concentrated in specific pockets? That's what we're breaking down today. What often gets overlooked is that large portions of the US are relatively safe. In fact, more than half of American counties record 0 murders in a typical year. Research shows that just 2% of counties account for over half of all homicides nationwide. The violence is highly concentrated. The year 2020 marked a sharp rise in killings. The homicide rate climbed to 7.8 per 100,000 people, totaling over 21,500 deaths. This was a noticeable increase compared to 2017, 2018, and 2019. Experts link much of this spike to pandemic-related stress, economic instability, and social disruption. While America's homicide rate is high for a wealthy country, it is still lower than nations such as Jamaica, Venezuela, Mexico, and South Africa. However, people often compare the US to countries like Australia, Canada, or England, where rates are far lower. So what explains the gap? Geography and poverty play major roles. Cities like St. Louis, Baltimore, and New Orleans regularly top homicide rate lists. Yet even inside those cities, violence is clustered in certain neighborhoods. In Chicago, some communities report life expectancies near 90 years, while just a few miles away it drops to around 60. The same pattern appears in Los Angeles, where a small percentage of zip codes account for most murders. Poverty is one of the strongest indicators linked to violent crime. Areas with high unemployment, limited healthcare access, struggling schools, and long-term economic decline often experience higher levels of violence. Research shows that chronic stress and traumatic childhood experiences can impact brain development and decision-making. This doesn't mean hardship automatically leads to violence. Most people facing poverty are not criminals, but increases risk factors. Add widespread firearm availability into that mix, and the situation becomes more volatile. The US has hundreds of millions of guns in circulation, more firearms than people. While most gun owners never commit crimes, access combined with poverty and gang activity can intensify conflicts. Gang and drug-related violence also play a major role. Illegal drug markets flourish in economically distressed areas. During the pandemic, drug use increased significantly, contributing to more overdoses and more violence tied to underground economies. There are an estimated 20,000 gangs active in the country, often concentrated in high-poverty neighborhoods. According to federal data, households earning under $25,000 per year face far higher rates of violent victimization compared to households earning over $75,000. The so-called war on drugs has cost over $1 trillion over decades, yet drug use and gang activity persist. Some experts argue that treating addiction as a health issue rather than purely a criminal one, as seen in countries like Portugal, could reduce violence in the long term. The reality is complex. The United States is not uniformly dangerous. Large areas are comparable to other developed nations in safety. But specific neighborhoods, often marked by poverty, inequality, gang presence, and limited opportunity, experience extremely high homicide rates. Violence in America is not evenly distributed. It is concentrated. And until root causes like economic inequality, addiction, trauma, and lack of opportunity are addressed, those hotspots may continue to struggle. If you want, I can now turn this into a dramatic